I'm the most superfluous child in my family. Stella is a beauty pageant champion. Felix topped the province in the college entrance exam. Only me, completely ordinary. The only award I ever received was a small red flower in kindergarten. On my 18th birthday, I made a wish to my parents that this Chinese New Year, I wanted to see the southernmost sea. During winter vacation, my parents held up pre-booked plane tickets. Upon arriving at the destination, Felix and Stella cheered at the sight of the northern snow. We stayed in a guest house for many days. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, I woke up early to knock on my parents' door, only to find it empty. I opened my phone and saw a photo of them eating reunion dumplings on New Year's Eve, realizing they had gone home last night. I stood in front of the empty doorway, feeling a little lost. My first instinct was to reflect on what I had done wrong. Before I could figure out the answer, I heard footsteps on the stairs behind me. It was the guest house owner coming up. I subconsciously apologized. "I'm sorry, I overslept. I didn't know my parents left last night." The guest house owner's expression instantly changed. I immediately lowered my head, preparing to be scolded. But the expected reprimand didn't come. Instead, a large hand gently covered my head, stroking it twice, not too hard, not too soft. How could parents be so awful? Leaving their child behind on vacation? Come on, give me your parents' phone number. I'll call them and tell them to come back and get you. Feeling the warmth on my head, I don't know why, but the lie came out. Don't contact them. This is a challenge my parents left for me, to see if I can survive outside now that I'm an adult. But I rarely lie. I nervously looked up, meeting the owner's concerned gaze. "Can you take me in? I can cook, I can do housework." The owner frowned, still insisting. "No, I must contact your parents." I pulled my ID card from behind my phone case and knelt straight down in front of the owner. If my parents were worried about me, they would send me money to go back. I'm an adult. I can be responsible for my actions. Please don't kick me out, okay? This wasn't the first time my parents had left me behind. I also knew that if I contacted them, they would either come back to pick me up or book me a return ticket. But every time I appeared before them safe and sound, their little bit of guilt would disappear. Even once when I told them that I was almost kidnapped by human traffickers, they just told me to stay closer next time I went out. Many times I've wondered if they hate me. Later I realized, it wasn't hate, just too little love, not even a fraction of what they gave Felix and Stella. After all, I'm a child with no good qualities, superfluous even at home. What right do I have to be compared to them? The owner's wife was a young girl from the South. After hearing my situation, and also hearing that I was the third girl in the family, she looked at me with a complex expression and sighed softly. "Working here, the pay isn't high. With room and board it's only 80 yuan a day, do you agree?" I looked at her in disbelief, and then nodded with all my might. Being taken in was already a luxury. I didn't expect to even get paid. "I've already planned. Once I get the money, next vacation, I can go to the south and see the sea." "Okay, come with me and get to work. First go put up the couplets." The owner's voice pulled me back to my senses. I looked up, looking at him in disbelief. "Am I qualified to put up the couplets?" The owner's eyebrows furrowed, as if wanting to roll his eyes at me, but finally held back. "There's no such thing as qualified or not. Just work efficiently, don't delay mealtime." I took the brand new couplet. The red paper carried the scent of ink. Holding it in my hands felt unreal. The spring festival at home is very busy. Putting up couplets and hanging lanterns all have rules. Felix is a boy, only he is qualified to do it. Stella is good at studying and beautiful, so she is qualified to share in this good fortune. I carefully put up the couplet, and as soon as I finished, I was pulled into the house by a hand. The table was full of steaming dumplings. A group of people squeezed together, but left a space for me. I was stunned. In the past, during New Year, I was always busy with a group of relatives in the kitchen, and it was our turn to eat only after the people in the front had finished. More often than not, I simply wasn't qualified to sit at the table to eat. "Eat, what are you looking at?" The landlady put a dumpling in my bowl. Their enthusiasm infected me, and while eating dumplings, I gradually joined their conversation. Outside, the sound of children playing with firecrackers crackled and popped. The landlady took out 2 boxes of small firecrackers from the counter and put them in my hands. Go play. I was a little surprised. Don't I need to work? It's New Year's today, no cleaning. Do it tomorrow morning, nothing to do today, go play. The landlady smiled and pushed me. Seeing them insist repeatedly, I walked out the door. Watching a group of children much younger than me running freely through the New Year's night, I couldn't help but raise the corners of my mouth. Actually, I don't like Chinese New Year. I'm not the someone else's kid everyone talks about. In those lively occasions, even quietly breathing in a corner is wrong. But I found that celebrating the New Year away from home for the first time seems more comfortable. Just then, the phone in my pocket vibrated. I quickly opened it. It was a message from the family group chat. Turns out the family had sent a group photo. Holding my phone, I held it up for a long time, but never waited for my parents to ask where I was. I exhaled a long breath, not knowing if it was a sigh of relief or frustration. Clicking on the photo, I saw everyone in the photo surrounding my grandparents in the center, Felix and Stella standing on either side, smiling brightly. Without me, the photo seemed more harmonious. Suddenly, I felt a warmth behind me, and a thick coat was draped over my shoulders. I turned my head. It was the landlady. She looked at the phone screen in my hand, her gaze landing on my face. Little girl, do you want to go home? Before I could answer, the landlady started chattering first. My home is also in the south, and I'm also the 3rd child in the family. Unlike you, I have 2 older sisters and a younger brother. In my family, what I hated most was the New Year. My family was poor, and new clothes were only made for my sisters and brother. After my sisters wore them, I could still wear them the following year. My brother, just because he was a boy. She paused as if remembering something, and smiled again. Fortunately, I married far away, so I don't have to go home and suffer that treatment anymore. After hearing the landlady's story, my eyes inexplicably turned red. But I knew that you can't cry during the New Year, otherwise you'll cry for the whole year. I could only look up at the sky. There was nothing in the sky, but my eyes were forced to be dry. Actually, it's not that I don't want to go home. I just feel like I'm a bit redundant at home, so it's better not to go back and cause trouble. The following days at the guest house were simple and fulfilling because they were busy. Until the 6th day of the Lunar New Year, my phone received its first message. I nervously took it out, and when I saw that the sender was not my parents, but a cousin I didn't have a good relationship with, I didn't know how to feel. I still opened the chat box. Did you have a fight with your parents? I didn't see you doing New Year visits today. I didn't dare to say anything, afraid of causing a fight. Even through the screen, I could imagine her look of watching a good show. Actually, you're like that too. No need to always compare yourself with your Felix and Stella. They're good-looking, smart, and obedient. What do you have to compete with them? Looking at that line of text, I originally wanted to type and tell her the truth. I was left in the north by my parents. I never thought about competing with Felix and Stella. But before pressing send, I deleted it word by word. What could proving it accomplish? Who knows, if Mom and Dad find out I'm not there, it might affect their mood for the New Year. Better to pretend to be ignorant and honestly finish this winter break job. If I earn money, I won't have to go hungry next time they forget to give me living expenses. But I didn't expect that on the 8th day of the Lunar New Year, I would see my 3rd aunt and cousin who came to travel at the guest house. They were very surprised to see me wearing an apron and wiping tables, but they still greeted me warmly. What are you doing here? I'm working a winter break job here, I said truthfully. 3rd aunt looked incredulous. Your family is considered a small middle class. Why do you need to work a winter break job? She said, I'll call your parents later and ask what's going on. I didn't know how to reply, so I didn't say anything in the end. 3rd aunt and them stayed for 3 days, and I was uneasy for 3 days. Until I cleaned up their vacated room. I didn't receive any message from my parents. I laughed mockingly at myself. That's right, I'm so old. How can I still not distinguish between polite words and genuine words? Back then, when 3rd aunt ran into Stella on the street, she had to immediately call my parents, saying my sister was so beautiful, why were they letting Stella go out alone? And that they should spend more time with her in case she was kidnapped. Regarding my affairs, it always seems to be later, or next time. When I was a kid, I would still look forward to it. Later I thought I was used to it. Only at this moment did I realize that I still had expectations. In the blink of an eye, it was the Lantern Festival. I heard the guests checking out at the front desk, saying they were going home to celebrate the Lantern Festival and eat reunion dinner. My hands, which were tidying up the room, stopped. I mustered up my courage and wanted to call my parents. I dialed my dad's number. After a long ringing, it was a busy signal with no one answering. I dialed a second time, a third time, and the results were the same. Just when I was about to give up, my hand unconsciously pressed the dial button for the fourth time. This time it went through. Before I could say Dad, I heard his businesslike voice in the receiver. Hello, happy Lantern Festival, but I'm spending the Lantern Festival with my family today. Contact me after the Lantern Festival if there's anything. The next second, the phone was cut off. Listening to the busy signal in my phone, I suddenly understood that he thought I was a supplier chasing after business. I knew that they never mistook the phone calls from Felix and Stella, because Mom and Dad set a special ringtone for them, and the notes were Precious Son and Precious Daughter. I lowered my eyes and opened my moments. The latest updates were from Felix. Swiping down through photos, they were the entire trace of their new year. The family was gathered together making dumplings, taking a family portrait together, setting off fireworks together, and going to the movies together. And today they were strolling through the temple fair. I could even guess that Felix must be the best at guessing lantern riddles, and then he would give the biggest lantern he won to Stella to write down this year's wishes. I am clearly also their family, but at this moment, I felt like a thief, peeking at their happiness. I understood more than ever that I really seem so superfluous. Little girl, can this room be cleaned up? A guest's voice came from behind me. I wiped my face messily, sniffed, and swallowed all my emotions back. Coming right now, I knew this couldn't be blamed on anyone. It can only be blamed on the fact that I wasn't born excellent enough, without any memorable qualities. The day's work ended, and I hid in the room, feeling wronged. The door was gently knocked. It was the landlady, and she walked in holding a bowl of tangyuan. School will start soon, right? She put the bowl on the table. You've done a really good job during this time. This is your salary. Remember to buy your ticket to school. A thick red envelope was handed to me. I took it, flattered, and squeezed it. It was more than a little over 1,000. I quickly opened the red envelope and prepared to push back the extra money. The landlady held my hand and smiled. Just treat it as me making up for the regrets of my youth. How many times did I want to escape from my family when I was a kid, but I didn't have the courage like you to stay outside alone for so long. The red envelope in my hand was a little hot. In the end, I accepted it. Once the Lantern Festival was over, school would start. I didn't go home, but went straight from the guest house to the train station. Back in the school dormitory, I had just finished tidying up my bed when my phone rang. The caller ID showed it was Mom. My mind was a blank, yet seemed filled with countless thoughts. When I answered, would it be questioning, grievance, or pretending nothing had happened? The phone buzzed against the bedsheet, my finger hovering over the green button. After taking a deep breath, I finally slid it. I held the phone to my ear. There was only silence in the receiver. The dormitory was empty. Only my own faint breathing echoed in my ear canal. I waited for a long time. So long that I thought my mom's call was a hallucination. But when I picked up the phone to look, the call time was ticking away on the screen, second by second. 037, 038. Was my phone broken? I plucked up my courage, my throat dryly trying to speak. Mom. Still there was no sound. I looked at the timing call, but didn't have the courage to hang up and call back. What if? What if she was just temporarily busy with something? Time crawled slowly, each second like a slow torture, until the timer jumped to 3 minutes and 12 seconds. Finally a faint rustling of fabric came from the receiver, and then Mom's surprised voice. Ha! When did I make a call? I felt the blood in my entire body freeze at that moment. So it was a missed dial. A burning stone seemed to be stuck in my throat, and a stinging sensation rushed into my nose. I couldn't help it, and a short sob escaped through my teeth. The other end of the line was quiet for a few seconds. Is Phoebe? Mom's voice was tentative, as if identifying someone she hadn't seen in a long time. The next moment, she also seemed to finally realize that someone seemed to be missing from the family this winter. Why didn't you come home for Chinese New Year? There was no blame or concern in her tone, only a pure, factual question. Before the new year, your Felix and Stella said you hadn't come back. Your dad and I thought you were out playing with classmates again. In the years you've been going to school, your dad and I have gotten used to you not being home, so we forgot to call you. Mom chattered on, but I could hear that she was making excuses for herself, for Dad, for Felix and Stella. She didn't get a response from me for a long time, so she asked, "Where are you now?" I opened my mouth and finally, I used all my strength to squeeze out a few words from my throat. At school. In the dormitory. Hearing this answer, she clearly breathed a sigh of relief. That's good, that's good. If you're at school, study hard, don't run around, and you'll be able to find a good job when you graduate. Okay, I have something to do here. She hung up first. I listened to the busy signal from the receiver, maintaining the posture of answering the phone, motionless. A few seconds later, the phone screen lit up again. It was Mom transferring 10,000 yuan to me via WeChat, followed by a WeChat message from Mom. This is your living expenses for this semester. Tell Mom if it's not enough. The sentences I'd prepared for almost a month, rehearsed countless times in the cold covers, seemed to vanish from my mind. But now I realize there's no need to say them anymore. I hugged my knees, burying my face deep within. This time, I didn't suppress it anymore, and I couldn't help but sob. But then, the sound of a key entering the lock came from outside the dormitory door, followed by the soft click of the doorknob turning. I froze, instinctively trying to stop crying. I didn't want anyone to see me like this. I frantically wiped the tears from my face, but my hands were quickly soaked, and the tears fell like a broken string of pearls, impossible to stop. The person outside seemed unable to open the door, and the key turned twice more. Then a soft mutter, filled with confusion. Weird, wrong place. Followed by the sound of footsteps moving away. Silence returned to the dormitory. I remained in the position of hugging myself, tears silently streaming down. Just now, someone had accidentally come to the wrong dormitory, inserted the key into the wrong lock. Just like just now, Mom had accidentally touched her phone, dialed the wrong number. It was as if the world had carelessly created an unnecessary me. I don't know how long I cried, until the dormitory door was finally pushed open. "Phoebe, why didn't you turn on the light?" It was my roommate Maya's voice. She was carrying 2 big bags of snacks. Behind her followed 2 other chattering roommates. The dormitory light was switched on with a snap, the sudden brightness making me instinctively squint. "Oh my God, Phoebe, why are your eyes so red?" Another roommate, Sadie, put down her bubble tea and rushed to my bedside in a few strides. "Who bullied you?" The 3 of them surrounded me, their eyes full of concern and inquiry. "Did you break up with a scumbag after dating?" Penny pushed up her glasses, analyzing with a serious expression. "Tell me what department he's in, and the sisters will get revenge for you." Maya put the snacks on the table and also joined in. "Yeah, hang him on the wall and let the whole school see his face." Looking at their indignant appearances, the frozen place in my heart seemed to crack open, and a warm current seeped in from that crack. I sniffled, but tears uncontrollably welled up again. I quickly raised my hand and wiped them away, forcing a smile that was more like a cry. "No, it's not a scumbag." I lowered my head, my voice muffled. It's just that when I came back, the wind was too strong, sand got in my eyes, I rubbed it for a long time, and it hurt." This excuse was so clumsy that even I didn't believe it. But they did. "How silly can you be? You can't rub when you get sand in your eyes." Maya pulled my hand away, leaned closer and looked carefully. "Come on, I'll blow it for you." She gently pried open my eyelid, puffed out her cheeks and carefully blew air into it. The warm breath brushed over my eyeball, a little itchy, but strangely smoothed out the wrinkles in my heart. Sadie and Penny were also anxiously directing from the side. Over here, it still looks a little red. Blow a few more times, and if it doesn't work, buy eye drops." They surrounded me, treating me like a fragile treasure. Unlike in that 4-person family, where I was like a piece of luggage that could be discarded at any time. In this small 4-person dormitory, I was needed. For group projects, they would habitually leave the most critical literature review part to me, because I did it best. For weekend dinners, they would give me the power to order, because I always remembered everyone's tastes and food restrictions. Even for elective course seat grabbing, they relied on me to grab the most perfect golden back row. We eat together, watch handsome guys together, play together, and bear hardships together. I suddenly realized why I was so sentimental this year for the new year. It wasn't because I suddenly became fragile. It was because I was truly needed in the dormitory. Someone cared about me. Having experienced that warmth, returning to that home, and facing that taken-for-granted neglect again brought such sharp pain. I'm not superfluous in the dorm. In the blink of an eye, the May Day holiday was approaching. While they were agonizing over how to spend it, I stood in the center of the dorm. My treat, let's go see the sea. Holy crap. Phoebe, are you rich? Sadie exclaimed. I raised my chin and said proudly, I earned money working over winter break. So, in that sweltering early summer, the 4 of us girls, each with a backpack, squeezed onto the slow train. Youth was under our feet, our butts heading straight for the distance. The train rattled for 8 hours, and we finally arrived at the seaside the next morning. That sea was bluer and more vast than I had imagined. In the afternoon, the tide receded, revealing a large expanse of muddy tidal flats. Maya took out a small bucket and shovel she had prepared from her bag and suggested, Sisters, the mudflat race starts now. The rules are, whoever catches the least by sunset loses. The loser is responsible for buying food, getting hot water, and picking up packages for the dorm for the next month. Okay. We scattered, each occupying a piece of the tidal flat, burying ourselves in hard work. I was lucky and quickly found a small crab under a rock and dug up a few clams in the sand. The setting sun dyed the sea orange-red, and the sea breeze made people feel tipsy. As I was focusing on digging for small crabs, someone gently patted my shoulder. A familiar voice rang in my ear. Little sister, hello, could you please help us take a family photo? I looked up and saw my mother holding a phone, extending it towards me. My gaze passed over her, towards the people behind her. Not far away, my father was standing in the middle, Felix and Stella leaning on him, already posing for the photo. Everything around me suddenly quieted down. Phoebe. My mother's voice was a little uncertain. I tugged at the corners of my mouth, revealing a standard smile I had practiced many times. Of course, I can help you take a family photo. I stepped forward and naturally took the phone from her hand. The screen showed the viewfinder, framing the 4 of them. My father was standing awkwardly. Felix's eyes were darting around, and Stella had her arms crossed, with no expression on her face. Only my mother was still trying to maintain a smile. I adjusted the angle so that the sunset behind them was exactly at the golden ratio point in the composition. Smile. I said in a stranger-like, polite tone. The shutter clicked, freezing their slightly awkward smiles. I took a few more pictures for them, horizontal composition, vertical composition, making sure everything was perfect. Okay. I handed the phone back to my mother and turned to leave, striding quickly. Phoebe. My mother chased after me, grabbing my wrist. How? Are you here too? I didn't really want to share my affairs with her at that moment. After all, I had shared before, and it always led to nothing. Just then Maya's voice rang out. Phoebe, come over here. I saw a lot of clams, and a super big crab ran into a crack in the rocks. I immediately pulled my hand out of my mother's grasp, turned to Maya, and the smile on my face became real. Really? I'm coming. My mother stood there blankly, looking at Maya who had suddenly appeared, and then at me. I glanced back at her and said, Mom, I'm going to play with my classmates. My mother stared blankly as I ran towards the rocks without looking back. Actually, I hadn't run very far before my eyes started to uncontrollably redden, and the vast sea in my vision began to blur and waver. Hey, Phoebe. Maya stopped and anxiously approached me. Did you get sand in your eyes again? I'll blow it for you. She was about to pry open my eyelids like last time. I shook my head, took a deep breath, and forcibly suppressed the bitterness. I wanted to nod, to use that clumsy excuse to get by, just like last time. But facing Maya's eyes, which were full of concern, I couldn't lie. that just now was my mom. I looked at the four figures in the distance who had regrouped, my voice very soft. She and Dad, with Felix and Stella, came to the beach to take a family photo. Maya was stunned for a moment. In the dorm, everyone's favorite topic was their family. Penny would complain about how much delicious food her mom had sent her, and how she'd gained 3 pounds. Sadie would boast about what treasure antiques her dad had found. Maya herself would bicker with her older brother every day. Only I rarely mention my family. Maya was incredibly perceptive, and she immediately understood the unspoken meaning of my words. A family photo of the whole family, but without me. She didn't ask any further questions, nor did she say any of those pointless, "Your parents must have a reason" kind of things. She just reached out, patted me heavily on the shoulder, and then put her arm around me. "Okay, don't think about it. Forget them, you still have us sisters. Let's go, I'll take you to catch that big crab. We're having an extra dish tonight." At the last moment of the sunset sinking into the sea, our tide pooling competition ended. I had very little to show for it. My bucket only had a few small crabs and a handful of clams, making me second to last. Last place was Sadie. Her bucket only had 3 small crabs, smaller than the palm of my hand, lying forlornly at the bottom. This was very unusual. Sadie was the most competitive person in our dorm. She had been the most lively all afternoon, and I clearly saw her catch a bucketful. I was puzzled when the corner of my eye caught sight of several crabs not far behind her, under a reef, struggling to burrow into the sand, with a pile of clams that had just been dumped out next to them. I understood instantly. I remembered when I was little, there was an unwritten rule at home. Whoever finished eating last had to do the dishes. Stella ate daintily and was always the last. But many times, I saw my mom would deliberately put down her chopsticks when Stella was almost finished eating, go to the kitchen to pour a glass of water, or leisurely pick at a fishbone, forcibly making herself the last one. So, this is what it feels like to be taken care of so subtly. Warm, yet it makes you want to cry a little. I might be superfluous at home, but in this 4-person dorm, I'm not. Back at the guest house, we noisily rushed into the bathroom to wash up. I had just changed my clothes when my phone vibrated with a buzz. It was my mom directly transferring 10,000 yuan to me. Below the transfer was a short message: "Take good care of yourself." It's always like this. Every time after forgetting me, she likes to express her compensation with money afterwards. Looking at the transfer interface, my finger hovered over the accept button, unable to press it for a long time. Suddenly, a hand reached over from the side and took my phone. Sadie glanced at the screen, and without saying a word, directly clicked accept payment. Then, she quickly replied with a voice message: "We will take good care of her." After sending it, she stuffed the phone back into my hand and said as if nothing had happened, "What are you standing there for? Come eat watermelon, Penny cut it." I stared blankly at her, and Maya made a face at me. "Sadie is right, we will definitely fatten you up." Penny pushed up her glasses and added with a serious face, "Don't worry, I have experience taking care of people." I suddenly remembered that Sadie's older sister worked at the same company as Stella. They probably already knew something about my family. It's just that they tacitly never mentioned it, never inquired about it, only using their own methods to carefully protect my self-esteem, subtly incorporating me into their wings. That night, the 4 of us squeezed into one bed and talked for a long time. For the first time, I told them everything, from being left out time and time again during childhood, to the sadness of being left behind during the new year. They didn't interrupt me, just listened quietly. Having said that, I felt the rock that had been weighing on my heart for over a decade was finally moved away. In my sophomore year, the 4 of us hit it off and, using our combined scholarships and money saved from part-time jobs, founded a small design studio. I began to live like an adult. I plucked up the courage for the first time and negotiated with an unfamiliar client on the phone for an hour for a 300 yuan design balance payment. For the first time, I faced a black-hearted fabric supplier and, holding the contract and chat logs, bravely recovered the deposit we had prepaid. For the first time, I stayed up for 3 consecutive nights, and the proposal I made was immediately favored by the client, securing the first large order since the studio was established. Life was filled with all kinds of surprises and challenges, busy and fulfilling. Under such high-intensity work, I seemed to have forgotten to go home. On the day of graduation, our studio was already somewhat well known. The four of us rented a larger apartment near the school, which served as both a residence and an office. But I wanted a place that was completely my own. I used my savings to make a down payment, and bought a single apartment of less than 20 square meters in the city center. Although it was small, it was my own home. On the day I moved in, I lay on the bed I had chosen for myself, and my phone rang at that moment, displaying 2 words on the screen. Mom. I swiped to answer, and there was silence on the other end for a moment before my mother's voice sounded. Phoebe, how have you been these past few years? I looked around this small home that belonged only to me and replied decisively. I'm fine. There was another silence on the other end of the phone. And just as I was about to hang up, my mother spoke again. Your father. He's not going to make it. If you have time, come back. I held the phone, stunned for a moment. My first reaction was not sadness, but surprise. I booked the nearest high-speed train. When I stepped out of the station, Felix drove to pick me up. He leaned against the car door, smoking a cigarette. When he saw me come out, his eyes lingered on me for several seconds before he called my name tentatively. You've changed a lot. He started the car, making small talk. I fastened my seatbelt and looked at the street scene receding rapidly outside the window. I had walked this road for over a decade. But now it felt a little unfamiliar. When I got home, there were people sitting in the living room, Stella, and many relatives. Their eyes fell on me all at once, as if sizing up a stranger. Stella stood up. She scanned me up and down, her brow furrowed. You still know to come back? Ever since you went away to college, your heart's been wild. You haven't come home to take a look for years. Her tone was exactly the same as I remembered. That kind of taken for granted, condescending blame. I looked at her and suddenly laughed. Come back? Come back to do what? Is it to come back and continue helping your family take family photos, continue being your free backdrop? Or to come back and compete with Felix for the family fortune? Stella's face changed instantly. Felix had just parked the car and came in, just in time to hear the last sentence, his footsteps stopping at the entrance. Ignoring their reaction, I continued. During these 2 years at school, I started a studio with friends. It's not big, but it can support itself. I have my own career, my own house. I'm doing very well. If Mom and Dad need it, I can pay alimony on a monthly basis. It's my obligation. But love and care, I can't give it. You don't love me, you don't care about me, and I can't keep rubbing my hot face against your cold butt. After I finished speaking, the living room was deathly silent. Stella opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but couldn't utter a single word. Felix had his head down, seemingly lost in thought. Mom stood there, tears silently streaming down her face. No one spoke. Together, we went to Dad's hospital room. He had been in a car accident and was now in a vegetative state. Despite the continuous rescue attempts, there was no hope of recovery. Just yesterday, Stella and Felix had decided to pull the plug. I looked at Dad. After so many years, he had lost a lot of weight, almost unrecognizable. After the formal procedure of removing the ventilator, I realized I didn't cry. The funeral process was complicated and lengthy. I followed Felix and Stella, handling all the arrangements, contacting the funeral home, choosing the burial plot, and receiving the relatives who came to offer condolences. Compared to Felix and Stella, who were constantly crying, I was much calmer. Finally, considering the overall situation, I took the lead in managing the funeral. Everyone praised me for being grown up and sensible. Only I knew that I just wanted it all to end quickly. On the day of the funeral, I called Felix and Stella together and placed a bank card on the table. This contains the dividends from my studio. The password is Mom's birthday. Future living expenses for Mom will come from this. If it's not enough, let me know. Felix looked at the card but didn't say anything. Stella pushed the card back. We don't need this little bit of money. Keep it for yourself. I looked at her. This was the first time in so many years that she had spoken to me in such a calm tone. But I just nodded and took back the card. Okay. I didn't say another word, turned around, went back to my room, picked up my phone, and booked the earliest flight out the next day. The next morning, I pulled my suitcase downstairs. Mom was sitting on the sofa in the living room, looking like she hadn't slept all night. She saw me, stood up, and seemed to want to say something. Phoebe, stay. A few more days. I shook my head. No, the studio has a lot of things to do. Just like they used to say they were busy at home, always good excuses. She didn't insist, just silently saw me to the door. In the future. Come back and visit often. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a kind of reluctance I had never seen before. I didn't answer, just pulled my suitcase and walked out of here, without looking back. The plane soared into the sky, turning the city behind me into a tiny speck of light. The sea of clouds rolled outside the window, and I turned back to look at the city where I had grown up. At that moment, my eyes suddenly turned red. Actually, it wasn't that I didn't crave love. That time during Chinese New Year when I was left alone in the guest house. Every day, I hid under the covers, secretly hoping that Mom and Dad would call. Actually, the 7th time I was forgotten at the amusement park, I sat on the bench for 5 hours, waiting until dark, and what I was thinking wasn't why they didn't want me anymore, but how I should explain things so they wouldn't be angry when they found me. The first time I was kidnapped by human traffickers, I was really glad that I reported it to the police first, instead of calling Mom and Dad. Every time, I reached out with hope. Every time, I only grasped at air. Having craved for so long, waited for so long, my heart seemed to have slowly grown numb. It turns out that people's love is limited, like money in an account, only going out and not coming in. Eventually it will run out. It seems that my share is running low. For the rest of my life, I only want to use it to love myself. In that family, I was a dispensable child. But to myself, I am my everything. In the future, I will take good care of myself.